Good day, everybody. Today I'm going to be showing you how to play the game Monopoly City. This game came out a few years ago by Hasbro and has since been discontinued, but this is a very cool version of Monopoly. It plays very much different than the original version of Monopoly, and I'll go ahead and talk about the differences really quick. The first thing is that there are no houses or hotels anymore. You've got residential buildings, industrial buildings, and a bunch of different towers.
You can also build immediately. You don't have to wait for Monopoly.
You also have what are called bonus buildings and hazards. Bonus buildings will basically help protect you from hazards, and hazards will basically take away the rent value of any of the residential buildings, which are these things, the gray buildings, away. And I'll talk about all that in just a little bit. Also, if you end up owning an entire monopoly, which would be 3 of these properties, the value is not going to double whenever you collect the rent. You will be able to double the value of the rent if you are able to purchase a tower. There are no community chest cards anymore. You just have chance cards, and the chance cards are different as far as what's on the back of these than there are in the regular game. So here is how the game works. In the beginning of the game, you're going to go ahead and pass out about $36 million to each player, and it's divided in millions and then thousands, etc. And then you're going to go ahead and roll these dice over here. And you roll, and then you're going to go ahead and move your mover. And let's just say this guy, you're going to start on go, and you'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, if you land on the question mark, you're going to go ahead and pick up the chance card, and you're going to go ahead and just simply follow the directions on it. If you land on a property, in this case, they're called districts in this. If it is not owned by anybody, you will be able to go ahead and buy it for the amount that is listed right here on the bottom. If it is owned by somebody, then you're going to have to pay them the rent value. And the way the rent value is going to be determined is by how many blocks that they have on these properties. For example, in the Westlands over here, I've got a block here, and this counts as 3 blocks. So I've got 4 blocks buildings over here. And I would go ahead and look at the card, and then the rent for this would be $1.8 million right now. Now, if the property is unowned and I don't want it, then we're going to have to go ahead and auction it off. And this is where this little thing comes in. What you're going to do is push this button. And the first thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a little noise that's going to alert you to let you know that there are 5 seconds left in the auction. So you can just basically auction off the property in $10,000 increments. So you could go, I bid $1 million, another guy could say I bid $2 million, etc. And as soon as the little noise goes off for the second time, that's going to end the auction, and whoever was the last person to place the bid will be able to go ahead and buy the property. These right here are your residential buildings and your industrial buildings. This is 1 block, this is 2 blocks, and this is 3 blocks, etc. And again, you can split them up however you would like to. The main difference between these buildings is that these buildings are cheaper to build on, but if someone builds a hazard on the district that has these buildings on there, it basically is going to cancel out the rent that someone will be able to pay you. So if you had, say, 3 of these up there and someone built a hazard on there, and the rent ended up being $1.2 million, if there was a hazard on there, it would basically knock it back down to the land rent, which is $60K. With the industrial buildings, hazards do not affect these buildings, but they do cost more to build. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about building. Now you can build on your turn at any time, and you can also build buildings on any district that you want to. You don't have to just build on the district that you land on. Any district that you own, you can go ahead and place buildings on. And the way you're going to determine how many blocks that you're going to be receiving, this will be 1 block, this will be 2 blocks, this will be 3 blocks, etc. You'll just simply hit this little thing on the side, and it's going to flash either on the number or a railroad. In this case, it flashes on the railroad. Now, if it flashes on the railroad, you're going to place one of these little railroads on any of the districts that are on the board. What the railroads will allow you to do is it will allow you to travel from railroad to railroad if you land on that district. So, for example, let's just say I landed on here. If I had to pay somebody rent, I would go ahead and pay them rent, and then I would be able to travel to any railroad that is on the board. I've got one here, one here, one here. So I would actually be able to go all the way over here if I wanted to. So let's just go ahead and say I didn't end up getting a railroad. And this says I can build 3 blocks. So what I would do in this case is I would go ahead and pick the type of block that I wanted, and I would go ahead and build them wherever I would like, so long as I own the district. You'll notice that there are numbers on each of these districts. Right here you got 1 and 2 and 3. Anytime you want to place a building on a certain district, you will just simply put, like for Westlands, if you wanted to build something on Westlands, you would just simply build it in the designated number over here. Bayview Dock is number 2, so if you wanted to build something in Bayview Dock, you would just simply build it in this area. And then, of course, for Brightside, you would do that in number 3. And the same goes for all of the other properties on the board. So since I have 3 blocks, I could go ahead and just put 3 blocks of residential somewhere on a property that I have. I could put 3 blocks of the industrial somewhere, or I could split it up and put like 1 industrial somewhere and 2 residential somewhere, etc. I have total freedom to do whatever I want, so long as I own the districts. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about the bonus buildings and the hazard buildings. The bonus buildings will basically protect you from hazards, and the hazards are going to basically take away the value of any of the residential blocks that people have built. Right here we have the rubbish dump. This is the power plant. This is the sewer plant, and then this is the prison. Now, interestingly enough, you will be able to actually remove these from your property, and it costs $500,000 per block that it takes up. So this one takes up 2 blocks, so this would cost $1 million to take off. This takes up 3 blocks. The sewage plant also takes up 3 blocks, and that's going to cost $1.5 million. And the prison takes 4 blocks, so that's going to cost $2 million to remove. Now, conversely, you have the bonus buildings, and these are going to basically protect you from having to deal with these, and it will protect your residential buildings. What you have here is your park, you've got your water tower, you've got your school, and then you have your windmill. Now, if you look on the board, there are these 4 blue spaces where the railroads used to be, and these are what are called planning permissions. This will allow you to either build a hazard or a bonus building, and this one says build rubbish dump or park. This one says build school or prison. That one says build sewer plant or water tower, and that one over there says build power station or wind farm. So basically what you can do, and this doesn't cost you any money, but you can either place a bonus building or hazard anywhere on the board that you would like on any property. You could place a bonus building on a property that you own to protect yourself from hazards. That will also protect your residential buildings over here. Or you can place a hazard on your opponent and try to knock off the value of his residential blocks, like right over here. Or what you can do is you can place a bonus building on a property that isn't owned in hopes that maybe you might land on it, buy it, and then you'll already have it. Or you might be able to place a hazard on an opponent's district that he may not own yet. Say he has 2 of these oranges, you place a hazard on this one, well, that basically is going to hurt him if he ends up getting a monopoly, and he's going to have to basically buy out that hazard in order for him to be able to successfully build any residential buildings. Now again, if you roll doubles on the dice, like so, you're going to go ahead and move, and then you're going to get to go again. And if you roll 3 doubles in a row, you're going to have to go to jail. And the rules for jail are the same as in regular Monopoly. You'll get 3 attempts to try to roll doubles to get out of jail. You can get, and if you roll doubles, you'll be able to get out for free. If you have a get out of jail free card from the chance pile, you'll be able to play that. Or you'll be able to pay $500,000 to go ahead and get out of jail whenever. But you've got to basically pay that fine if you don't get out after being in there for 3 turns. Now, the free parking space is a little addition to it. If you land on free parking, you are going to receive what is called the Rent Dodge card. And what this card is going to allow you to do is going to allow you to not pay rent on a property that you land on that is not yours. So let's just say my opponent landed on this, and he ended up having to pay, say, $10 million to me or something like that. If he had that card, he'd go ahead and play it, and then he would not have to pay for the rent on that property. Now, if somebody else lands on free parking, then that player, whichever player has this card, is going to have to give it to that other player that landed on the free parking space. And whenever this card is used, it will simply go back underneath the free parking spot. Now I'll go ahead and talk about some of the spaces over here as well. There's the go to jail over there, and if you land on that, you'll go to jail. You will collect $2 million salary every time that you pass go. Now, if you have what is called the stadium, which is this building, that will make it $3 million that you will receive. In order to buy a stadium, you're going to have to own 2 districts of the same color. So say 2 blue here, or both the browns. And the stadiums cost $2 million each. Now there's only 2 of them, so you have to buy them pretty quick if you want them. Now there's also a couple of spaces here that say auction. This says choose any unknown district to be auctioned. If you land on this, you're just basically going to pick the district that's not owned by anyway and place it up for auction. There's also one that says industry tax. You will have to pay $2 million if you own any industry buildings in any of your districts. So any of these blue buildings over here, you would have to pay $2 million. It's a flat fee. Now we come to building the skyscrapers. If you end up having a monopoly, say 3 of these properties of the same color, you'll be able to build a skyscraper. Now the skyscrapers cost $5 million, and what they're going to do is they're going to double the rent on all of the districts that are of the same color. So if I went ahead and put a skyscraper over here, bam, it would go ahead and double the value of the rent of all of these. Then you have the Monopoly Tower. This costs $7 million. If you happen to have 2 monopolies, say 3 of this color and 3 of that color, you will be able to buy this for $7 million. What this tower is going to do is it will double the value on every single district that you own. And those districts don't have to be monopolies in themselves. You just have to simply own the district, and it will double the rent on that. Now, if you happen to have this tower up somewhere else, it's not going to redouble it. Now, as in regular Monopoly, you are going to be allowed to do trades and do deals and things of that nature. And the instructions basically say that you have to hit this button, and you'll have that amount of time to do a trade or a deal until the button signals that it's over. Now, you don't have to do that, but that's what the instructions suggest. Now, when it comes to mortgaging, it's a little bit different. If you need to mortgage a property in order to pay somebody off, what you'll do is you'll just simply, the mortgage value will be the amount that the property is worth when someone lands on it and has to pay you rent. So for Diamond Hills, for example, which is number 2, I've got 2 buildings on here, or 2 blocks, and those 2 blocks make the property worth $5 million. So when I mortgage this, it's going to be $5 million that I'll be able to receive in return. And in order for me to unmortgage it, I would have to pay back the $5 million. There's no interest charge or anything like that. And the way the winner will be determined if everybody else goes bankrupt, or if the time limit expires, and whoever has the most amount of money and properties and in cash and in everything else will win the game. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you play Monopoly City.